A few days before our wedding, my fiancée looked at me with a strange mix of guilt and determination and told me something that shattered everything I thought I knew about us. She said she needed a weekend alone with her ex. Not for fun. Not for nostalgia. According to her, it was for, of all things, closure. She said it was emotional housekeeping before stepping into marriage. She said she needed clarity, honesty, space to process her past, so she could fully commit to our future. And when I told her no, when I drew what I assumed was a very normal boundary, her entire family made me feel like I was the unreasonable one. Like I was immature for not supporting her growth. Like I was the obstacle standing between her and some kind of enlightened self-understanding. She went anyway. She packed a small bag, drove out to a cabin outside Boulder with a man she claimed was firmly in her past, and came back expecting me to nod and smile and keep planning a wedding like nothing had happened. Like I was supposed to wait patiently while she had one last emotional getaway with someone she once loved. Before I get into what happened after, I need to explain how we got here. Because if I just drop you into the moment she asked me for a romantic cabin weekend with her ex days before our wedding, you'll think I'm lying. I would have thought so too before I lived it. My name is Ryan, 31M. My ex-fiancée is Julia, 28F. And until this year, I genuinely believed she was the woman I'd grow old with. We met at a New Year's Eve house party in Portland back in 2020. Not a dramatic, fireworks kind of moment. More like quiet gravity. She had this warm, sincere energy. The type that makes you feel like you've known her much longer than 5 minutes. We clicked fast. After a few weeks of late-night takeout and long drives with music playing too softly, we were inseparable. A year later, we moved in together. In 2023, I proposed during a weekend trip to Lake Tahoe. She cried beautiful, messy tears and whispered yes before I even finished the question. I remember thinking I had never been so certain of anything. We planned a small wedding. 70 guests. A vineyard venue outside Denver. Invitation sent, deposits paid, flowers chosen, playlists made. I covered most of the costs, but it didn't matter to me. I loved her. I wanted our life to start beautifully. And it really did feel beautiful. Calm. Solid. Safe. Except for one shadow I always ignored. Her ex, Adrian. They dated for 5 years in their early 20s. According to her, they broke up because he wasn't ready for commitment. We grew apart, she said. It just wasn't right long term. I believed her. I trusted her. I wanted to be the kind of man who didn't fear someone's past. But looking back, the signs were there. A saved folder of old photos she never deleted. Her still following his sister and mom on Instagram. The slight tightness in her voice when she talked about who she used to be. The way she'd go quiet when certain songs came on. I brushed it all off as normal emotional residue. Everyone has a history. Planning the wedding should have brought us closer, but around early spring, something shifted. She grew distant, not cold, just elsewhere. Sleepless nights, long showers, random emotional spirals she couldn't explain. I chalked it up to stress. Her mother was demanding to the point of cruelty. Her brother was a constant disaster. And she carried the weight of everyone's expectations like a boulder on her chest. Then came the questions. Do you think people can love two people at the same time? Do you think soulmates are real? Do you believe closure matters before marriage? I thought she was just anxious. I reassured her, held her, told her everything would be okay. It wasn't. We were sitting on the couch one night, just days before the wedding, when she finally broke. Her hands trembled. She stared at the floor instead of me. And then she said it. I need to spend a weekend with Adrian. I thought I misheard. My brain refused to process it. She rushed into an explanation, her words spilling out in frantic, poetic nonsense about emotional integrity and completing her story. I asked her why she needed to go to a cabin with him. She said, because we need to talk privately, to end things the right way. I told her calmly, firmly, if you go, there will be no wedding. She cried, but not the wounded kind of crying, the angry, disappointed kind. She accused me of being controlling, insecure, closed-minded. She said I didn't understand emotional maturity. I wasn't going to marry someone who needed a farewell retreat with her ex to prepare herself for me. She left to stay with her mother. The next morning, the pressure campaign began. Her mom, her brother, her friends, all telling me I was blowing things out of proportion. That real love requires sacrifice. That I needed to prove I trust her. One of her friends even said, let her go. If she comes back, she chooses you. I didn't want to be chosen second. She went to the cabin anyway. I didn't text her, didn't call, didn't ask questions. The wedding was off. And when she returned, she sent one message. I'm back. I love you. Let's talk when you're ready. She had no idea what was waiting on the other side of that trip. Because the truth, the real truth, hadn't surfaced yet. But it would. And when it did, every single person who told me I was overreacting would realize how wrong they were. Including her. Julia didn't call me the entire weekend she was gone. Not a text. Not a missed call. Not even a question about why the wedding website suddenly displayed event postponed. Nothing. Just silence. I didn't reach out either. I spent that first night sitting on the floor of our living room, surrounded by centerpieces, sample menus, ribbons she had picked out, and the seating chart we had argued over for hours. I remember staring at it all, thinking how you can build something with someone for years, and it can still collapse in a single moment. Quietly. Suddenly. Without ceremony. By Saturday morning, the rumors had already started. Her cousin texted me. Is it true you got cold feet? Her coworker messaged. She's devastated. Why cancel now? Someone from her gym commented on my Instagram. Due to what happened? Julia didn't correct them. Of course she didn't. I spent the entire day on the phone canceling everything. The vineyard, the catering, the DJ, the shuttle service, the photographer. Most of the deposits were non-refundable. I lost nearly $9,000 in a single afternoon. When I called the venue, the coordinator sighed and said, another pandemic breakup? I didn't bother explaining. It wasn't a pandemic. It was betrayal disguised as emotional enlightenment. Later that afternoon, her mother showed up at my apartment unannounced. She let herself in because Julia had never taken her key back. She looked around like she was inspecting damage after a storm. You boys always panic before the big day, she said. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the alternative was screaming. I'm not panicking, I said. Your daughter chose to spend a weekend with her ex. Her mother folded her arms. You're being dramatic. It's not like she slept with him. How do you know that? I asked. She hesitated. Just for a second. But it was enough. I told her the wedding was canceled. Permanently. She left my apartment in angry silence, muttering something about immaturity. That night, her brother sent me a long message about how I needed to man up and fight for the relationship. Fight for what? A woman who drove off to the mountains with her ex days before promising her life to me? No, I wasn't fighting for scraps. Sunday evening, I saw Julia's car back at her mother's house. But she didn't message me until late Monday night. I'm home. I love you. Let's talk when you're ready. When I'm ready. That phrasing alone told me she still didn't grasp the magnitude of what she'd done. I didn't respond. The next days were a blur. People muttering behind my back. Half our mutual friends disappearing. Others circling me like vultures, trying to extract gossip. My social media blowing up with questions, accusations, assumptions. Julia posted nothing. Total blackout. Which made me look like the villain by default. By Thursday, I was mentally unraveling. Not because I missed her, God, no, but because everyone kept insisting I was overreacting. That I was throwing away a future over something purely emotional. Even my own mother said, maybe she just needed to say goodbye. I asked her, if Dad had asked to spend a weekend alone with his ex before marrying you, would you have stayed? She didn't answer. That's when it hit me. No one understood, because no one wanted to understand. It was easier to label me stubborn than to accept the ugliness of Julia's choices. That night, I made a burner account and posted the Vegas version of the story on Reddit. Nothing identifying. Just enough to say, am I losing my mind? Thousands of strangers told me no. That helped. Not enough, but enough to breathe for a minute. And then something shifted. On Friday afternoon, I got a text from one of Julia's bridesmaids, Melissa. We were never close, but she'd always been kind. Her message was short. I'm sorry for everything. You didn't deserve this. That alone was strange enough. But then she sent a second text. You should know, her story isn't lining up. My chest tightened. What story? She's been telling people you canceled because you're emotionally unstable. But then she let something slip last night that didn't add up. What did she say? I asked. Melissa hesitated before replying. Just be prepared. The truth will come out soon. I stared at that message for so long the screen dimmed. All week, I had been drowning in a narrative crafted to make me look like the irrational one. And now someone inside her circle, someone who was supposed to be standing beside her at the altar, was hinting that Julia wasn't just misguided, she was hiding something. By Saturday morning, more cracks were forming. A mutual friend pulled me aside at the grocery store, awkward, hushed voice, and said, Hey man, I don't know what's really going on, but she's telling people you ruined everything because you couldn't handle her needing closure. No mention of the cabin. No mention of the ex. No mention of the weekend away. She edited the story, removed the part where she betrayed me, left only the parts where I looked unstable. That was when the anger began to replace the heartbreak. Late Sunday evening, Melissa texted again. I'm sending you something soon. I just need to figure out how. I asked what she meant. She didn't reply. I barely slept. Every hour felt like waiting for a storm that had already begun but hadn't yet reached my house. By Monday morning, I would understand why. Because the truth, the real, entire truth, was far worse than a misguided closure trip. And Julia had no idea how much evidence was about to surface. On Monday morning, the message finally came. I was making coffee, trying to convince myself to function after a week of chaos, when my phone buzzed with a single notification from Melissa. I have the screenshots. My stomach dropped. Before I could respond, she followed with, Just promise me you won't say they came for me. Then the files came through. One after another. Dozens. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. Group chats, private messages, photos of calendar dates, voice memo transcripts. And then it all snapped into place, so violently I had to sit down. Julia hadn't reconnected with Adrian during some emotional spiral. She'd been talking to him for months. Late-night calls, long text threads reminiscing about the way things used to be. Screenshots of her saying she'd been dreaming about him. Screenshots of her saying she missed the version of herself she was when they were together. Screenshots of her writing, I'm scared I never really let go of us. But the worst part wasn't the emotional cheating. It was the planning. The cabin reservation? Not spontaneous. Not a last-minute clarity trip. It was booked 3 weeks before she mentioned the idea to me. She and Adrian had talked about it beforehand. She even sent him photos of the cabin, saying, I think this is the right place to finally talk. One screenshot hit me so hard I had to reread it. I just need to know what we could have been before I marry him. Before I marry him. I wasn't even a name, just an obstacle. The next screenshot was even worse. Adrian replied, Then come for the weekend. If it feels wrong, you'll go back to your life. If it feels right, we'll figure it out. And Julia answered with a heart emoji. My hands went numb. Another message from her, a week before the wedding. I think Ryan suspects something. I'll bring up the closure idea soon. He might resist, but I'll try to make him understand it's for us. For us. She wasn't just planning betrayal. She was strategizing how to disguise it as emotional maturity. Melissa must have sensed I was spiraling because she texted again. I'm sorry. I didn't know the full truth until last night. She told everyone you blew up over nothing. But after she slipped and admitted Adrian had reached out months ago, I checked our old messages. I trusted her, but this is bad. Bad didn't begin to describe it. Julia had rewritten the entire narrative for her friends and family. In her version, I was the unstable fiancé who panicked before the wedding. A man who couldn't handle emotional complexity. A man who overreacted to closure. Meanwhile, she was holding hands with her ex in a mountain cabin. Then another screenshot came in, the final blow. It was from a private chat between Julia and her maid of honor. The conversation happened the night before she left for the cabin. Her friend asked, "Are you sure this is a good idea?" And Julia replied, "I need to know if there's still something real with him. If not, I'll marry Ryan. He's safe. He'll give me a stable life." I wasn't her partner. I wasn't her love. I was her backup plan. A safety net. A fallback. A plan B husband. I thought I'd cry. Instead, I felt something cold and sharp settle inside me. A clarity I hadn't felt in days. I texted Melissa. "Thank you." She replied, "I think more people are starting to realize the truth." She wasn't careful. And she's been slipping. I spent the next hour staring at the screenshots, reading them over and over, letting the reality carve itself into me. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't wedding anxiety. This was a premeditated betrayal. A few hours later, everything escalated. A mutual friend, someone who had avoided choosing sides, called me unexpectedly. Her voice was low, apologetic, shaking. "I think you should know. Julia showed up to a small gathering last night. And she brought Adrian." I froze. "What do you mean brought?" They walked in together, holding hands. She introduced him as, well, not officially her boyfriend, but it was obvious. Everyone was confused. I didn't say anything. She said the wedding ended because you weren't emotionally available, and that being with Adrian again helped her realize what she truly needed. Emotionally available. That was the new story. She had traded 2 years of wedding planning, for years of life together, and thousands of dollars for a recycled romance with a man who'd already failed her once. And now she was rewriting history to look like the victim of my coldness. My caller continued, "But people aren't buying it anymore. Someone leaked that she wasn't honest. People are asking questions." I already knew who the leak was, and I was grateful. By the evening, 3 more mutual friends reached out, all with the same undertone. "We're sorry. We didn't know. This makes so much more sense now." Julia must have felt the shift because she finally messaged me again. A long paragraph this time. "I never wanted things to get so complicated. I just needed clarity. I made mistakes. I know that now. Adrian isn't who I thought he was. Things didn't go the way I imagined. I miss what we had. I hope someday you'll understand. I still love you." Not an apology. Not accountability. Just self-pity wrapped in poetic excuses. She wanted me to be her soft landing after she leapt into someone else's arms. I didn't reply. And for the first time since everything began, I felt steady, grounded, like the fog had finally lifted. But the storm wasn't over. Because the next day, Julia's mother emailed me. And what she wrote changed everything once again. The email from Julia's mother arrived early the next morning. Subject line, "A conversation we should have had sooner." I almost deleted it without opening. But something made me click. Her message was long, far longer than anything she'd ever sent me when Julia and I were together. She wrote about how she had been misled, how Julia hadn't been honest about the timeline, how she and Adrian had been emotionally entangled long before the so-called closure trip. Then came the part that stunned me. "I want to apologize for the way I spoke to you. I defended my daughter blindly. But after recent information came to light, I realized you were operating from integrity while she was not. I'm sorry for assuming you were the problem." I stared at the screen for a long time. This was the same woman who had come into my apartment acting like I'd failed her daughter, like I was the immature one ruining the wedding. And now she was rewriting her own narrative, trying to soften the damage. I didn't respond. Because the truth is, I didn't owe closure to the woman who helped gaslight me. Later that same day, Melissa texted again. "You're not going to believe this." She sent a screenshot from someone who had seen Julia and Adrian the night before. He dumped her. Apparently, the spark she had been chasing fizzled fast. According to the eyewitness account, Adrian told her he missed the freedom of not being committed and wasn't ready to be in anything serious. The exact same reason they broke up years ago. Julia reportedly sat there stunned, crying quietly while he walked out. I shouldn't have felt satisfaction. I shouldn't have felt anything. But I felt peace. Not joy at her pain, just confirmation that I had dodged a bullet aimed straight at my future. A few hours later, Julia herself finally messaged me again. A much longer paragraph this time. I know I hurt you. I see that now. I made decisions from a confused place, and I regret them. Things with Adrian weren't what I thought. I didn't understand what I was risking until it was gone. I miss you. I miss us. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. I still love you, Ryan. I always will. I read the message once. Then again. Then I locked my phone and set it down. Because nothing inside me wanted her back. Not even a little. She didn't lose me because she made a mistake. She lost me because she made a choice. And she made it with full clarity. And when someone chooses another person over you before the marriage even starts, the story is already written. All that's left is the ending. Over the next few weeks, life slowly rearranged itself. I moved to a different part of the city, nothing drastic, just far enough that I didn't have to worry about bumping into her mother at the grocery store. I deleted every wedding-related file from my computer, put the ring away in a drawer, went to therapy, started running again, adopted a rescue dog named Milo, who has more emotional intelligence than half the people I dealt with this year. And little by little, the weight lifted. People from our old circle began reaching out. Some apologized sincerely. Others tried to justify their silence. I forgave a few. Let the rest fade away. Not out of anger, just peace. One night, a mutual friend called and said, "Dude, you got out at the perfect time. She's a mess right now. She's trying to rewrite the story again." But it didn't matter anymore. Because the story wasn't hers to write. It was mine. And the final chapter was simple. I chose myself. I chose dignity. I chose self-respect. I chose peace over chaos and honesty over delusion. And somewhere along the way, I realized something important. I didn't need closure from her. I was the closure. I closed the door she left open. I ended the chapter she tried to twist. I walked out of the story on my own terms. Maybe one day she'll understand what she threw away for a fantasy that never had a real future. Maybe she won't. It doesn't change anything for me. Because for the first time in a long time, I'm good, truly good. And when the right person comes along, someone who doesn't need to test drive their past before choosing their future, I'll be ready. Not because I'm healed from her, but because I finally remember who I am. Thanks for listening to my story. If you want more real-life Reddit-style stories like this one, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and I'll see you in the next video.